The COVID-19 pandemic exposed racism towards Asian communities around the world. At the Centre for Resilient and Inclusive Societies, we wanted to find out what this racism looked like and how it affected Asian Australians. We asked over 2,000 Asian Australians about their experiences of racism and how it impacted their lives before and during the pandemic. We found that 40% experienced racism during the pandemic, and more than 2/3 of those experiences were related to the COVID-19 context. These experiences mostly occurred online and in public settings, such as in shops and on the streets. Subtle forms of racism were common, such as being treated less respectfully and being ignored. Being called names, physically and verbally assaulted, denied entry or service, and having property vandalized were other forms of racism experienced. 40% of respondents also witnessed racism during the pandemic. For them, the most common action was to do nothing. Only 5% reported the incident to someone in a position of authority. Targets of racism were also unlikely to report incidents of racism. Barriers to reporting included inaccessible and unsafe reporting processes, lack of knowledge of reporting tools and human rights, distrust in reporting institutions and agencies, and feelings of shame, hopelessness, and disempowerment. What is concerning for us, aside from the high levels of racism, are the correlations between experiencing racism and poor mental health, well-being, and sense of belonging. We found that people who experienced racism were more likely to be stressed, anxious, and depressed. They were also less likely to feel that they belong, less likely to feel accepted by others, and less likely to feel included or that they feel Australian. And you don't have to directly experience racism for it to affect your life. The majority of participants anticipated racism. Most people worried that they would experience unfair treatment because of their race, ethnicity, or culture. And more than 3/4 of participants avoided specific situations because of racism. So what do we need to do about it? We need to improve education on what racism is, the negative impacts of racism on individuals, communities, and society, and what actions we can all take to respond to and prevent racism happening in the first place. We need to improve understanding of our human rights and responsibilities when it comes to racism. We need to encourage witnesses of racism to speak out against it and support those who have been affected. This includes listening to their experiences and taking them seriously. We need to make changes to our schools, workplaces, and communities so that racism can't take hold. This includes implementing adequate, accessible, and safe reporting processes. At the Centre of Resilient and Inclusive Societies, we are passionate about creating meaningful social change via robust research and community consultation. You can read the full project report and access resources at the Centre for Resilient and Inclusive Societies website.